Hey, toy fans of all ages, or mostly ages over 30, if you're an adult collector like I am. Welcome back to Spector Creative. We're going to talk today about tooling allocation and how waves are built based on this, waves of action figures. So as quick background, and yes, I know I've discussed this before in other videos, but I figure every video is someone's first video. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's yours. Welcome. Subscribe. Anyway, this is a toy tool, an injection molded plastic tool. It's a giant metal mold, kind of like those molds we had for Play-Doh back in the day. Anything that's made of plastic, whether it's an action figure arm or a cup or a scissor handle, come out of injection molded plastic tools. And these are very expensive to make. When you inject plastic into them, because they have to be strong enough to withhold plastic being injected over and over, you get something like this that comes out. It's a sprue or a tree with the different parts, which are then hand assembled in the factory in order to create said toy or whatever you're making. This is where a lot of the cost comes from, the labor, because constructing all of these pieces and then painting it to make it look like the Incredible Fella, well, that's really what drives the cost of action figures. Labor and then the raw material, which continues to go up. Tooling is not part of labor or raw material. Tooling is a one-time capital investment where you're spending about $100,000 for a fully tooled figure for that big mold. Now, the secret is the more money a brand makes, the more tooling allocation it gets. So the big brands that you see with, the giant displays at retail that are in front, those are usually the ones that are making the most money. And that means that tooling, if you make a lot of money, won't hit your P&L so hard. For a brand that's small, it tends to be like an anchor pulling you down because you don't have enough revenue to drive the brand to justify tooling. It's like a catch-22. You're not making enough money, so you're not getting enough tooling, so you're not making cool enough figures to increase sales. I know, it's crazy. So most tooling is looked at as a fully tooled figure and a partial tooled figure. So here you see examples of partial tooled figures where the pink areas represent the new parts added to a basic action figure buck. Now, tooling is like jelly beans. It's delicious, it comes in lots of flavors, and it should be shared. Well, actually, that's the only part that it should be shared. So if you think of your tooling allocation as a bowl of jelly beans, if you will, well, you're going to divide these up amongst an entire wave in order to get a robust selection that will appeal to the customer. And that's going to take changing parts and changing heads. And in other words, you want to take a basic character and create lots of them. You do this simply because
Allah loves wondrous variety.
well, and retail does as well, as do the customers. They want to see a lot of what are called silhouettes on shelf, lots of characters in an assortment. So if you have an assortment like this of Marvel Legends, most of your figures are going to be very low tooled. Gambit here, for example, while he looks like a complete, he's an original character, looks like he's got a lot of tooling, he's really just a new head on the Spider-Man Noir body, more or less. I mean, there are other new parts. But yes, so you can see how he's a partial tooled figure versus Beast here is a fully tooled figure. He takes way more jelly beans. Now, when you're selling in a fully tooled figure to management, you usually also have to make a case for what the big picture is, why a figure is worth investing in. Maybe it's an A-list character, the star of a movie, has a lot of appeal, but you're also going to try to want to, well, when you're pitching your assortment to management, is show if you invest in this tool, look at all the different ways we're going to be able to release it in the future. Look at all these fan acceptable decos there are that we can maximize this one-time investment. So the Beast figure, as an example, Hasbro was able to generate quite a few Beast figures using the tooling originally created for Blue Beast, even giving him a lab coat and a different head. I'm still waiting for that one. But yes, so this original version paid off, and they've released at least 4 different kinds. Most Toy B sheets look at fully tooled, partial tooled, deco, and package-only changes. And holistically, the tooling has to fund all of this. You get as much tooling as your sales justify to keep your margins at the requirement that the company makes you have. So when you have a certain amount of tooling and you know you need 7 figures in an assortment, you will divvy that up between partial tooled and fully tooled figures, and usually there's only enough for one fully tooled figure. Everyone else, and in the case of the Build-A-Figure in this wave, is even a partial tool, and they all help pay for that fully tooled figure. It all balances out the P&L. Let's look at another example, not a a Star or not a Star Wars one, not a Marvel one, but a Star Wars one. So this was a wave of Star Wars 3 and 3/4 vintage collection figures that shipped to Walmart recently. And in this mix, we have a perfect assortment or a perfect example of partial tool and repaint slots. So R2-D2 here is a repaint slot, meaning there was absolutely no new tooling added to this character. It was a tool that had already been paid for. They were just going to repaint it. The repainting really happened on the headpiece. There's the sensor scope, the periscope. The original version even came with more. So now we just have this version without all that bartending stuff, but he does get more paint apps. The other figures in the assortment, again, same thing, a mix of partial tool and repaint. Another repaint figure is this one, the Imperial Gunner or Death Star Gunner. So taking an existing tool and now re-releasing it on a new package with slightly different deco. So this original Rogue One version of the Death Star Gunner could now be a classic trilogy Death Star Gunner. Even though, and yeah, I'm going to nitpick, the costumes are quite different between movies, and it is sort of one of my pet peeves when they release a figure from one movie and then say, oh, now we're going to just put it on a different packaging and say it's from a different movie. Yeah, the outfits do change. And for collectors that are obsessive compulsive like you know I am, well, having these little differences sort of just be like, oh, yep, we're just going to re-release them. It's a different outfit. All right. So yeah, this technically isn't correct for on screen, but it satisfies a lot of people's need for a vintage replacement or update to the Imperial Gunner. But that's a bit of a different tangent and a YouTube video for another time. The point is that it was just an existing tool with new deco. Now here we have an existing tool with new tooling added, meaning the belt and the cod piece. And I think maybe the helmet got some slight retooling. I'll have to check, but I know the belt's new. This figure started off once again as a Rogue One Stormtrooper, and eventually got re-released as an Empire Strikes Back Stormtrooper, even though, once again, the outfit, the uniform is Rogue One specific and not Classic Trilogy specific. I don't know why in Rogue One when filming they couldn't do that. But they also were able to maximize this tool by re-releasing it in an online 4-pack. So again, showing that that one-time investment pays off. Here we have the tool with a new belt added, now released on a Star Wars card. So minimal new tooling, it's called a tooling refresh, meaning they're just putting on a new belt in this case to an existing figure. So it's minimal tooling versus a straight repaint like the Imperial Gunner and the R2-D2 was. Or is. R2. I don't know. He's there. So yes, so now we can have a belt on our Stormtrooper, and he looks a bit more Classic Trilogy correct, even though he's wearing the armor from Rogue One, and anyway, that's just me nitpicking. All right, so finally this wave has 2 Bespin guards. Now, they got more tooling than anyone else in the wave. They got new heads, they got new torsos. Luckily, Hasbro has been very creative in the sense that the vintage line is creating a lot of sort of generic arms, legs, boots, and hands from different characters. So there was some tool bashing or kit bashing that was done, like using legs from General Lando on the Bespin guard. Hey, if Lando can't supply his guards with legs, I don't know who can. But once again, because you're adding a lot more tooling to this figure, it's not fully tooled, but more so than the Stormtrooper with the new belt, well, you need to convince management why it's worth the investment in this figure. I mean, management's going to say, can't you just take another tool and repaint it? Why do we need to allocate tooling for, these Bespin guards? I'm sure you could just throw in a Darth Vader and, put some new paint on it. Have we done Darth Vader with, racing stripes yet? So, yeah, it's already been shown that Hasbro releases army builders online, right? Like we just talked about that with these Stormtroopers. And lately, their army builders have actually gotten tooling. Tooling in the sense of just a new face sculpt. But so much comes from the head sculpt. You get more out of a face sculpt than any other part of the body on any action figure. The head is so much of the personality. And like I said, Hasbro is now in their army builder packs doing unique heads, which is pretty cool. And I know they're ethnically diversifying the line, but again, as a purist, if you go back to the movie, yeah, they're all white. I mean, every single Alderaanian trooper, these are not rebel troopers, these are Alderaan fleet troopers. I wish they'd call them that. But on Cloud City, on the other hand, we have a lot of diversity. I mean, there's a girl, there's a Chinese guy, I think there's an Arab guy, there's an alien guy, there's people with different facial hair. So, yeah, you could use this body and just replace the head and make another one of those 4-packs. So, for those who wanted the vintage figure updated, bam, that's now done. But if you wanted the character that was on the card back for the vintage figure, who had much more of a beard, didn't just have the handlebar mustache, well, Again, a new head can do that now that we have this body. So that's how anytime tooling is allocated, you're going to show how it can be reused in the future and it's worth the investment. It's worth allocating those jelly beans. And ideally, a good brand manager will know how to divvy up those jelly beans or tooling funds to get the maximum number of characters that are going to appeal to the maximum number of people without breaking the bank. The more sales, the more tooling dollars you get. It's as simple as that. I hope you enjoyed this video and it was a good look at how tooling is allocated throughout waves to create multiple types of figures. Repaints, partial tools, redecos, package only, and fully tooled figures. Those ones are pretty expensive, but you can be clever and find ways to do it if you're clever enough. Thanks for watching, thanks for sharing, and I'll see you guys in the next one.